Welcome back to another episode of Opal Wave MTG, a channel dedicated to exploring power levels in EDH. I'm your host Jacob, and this episode is going to be about Liberator, Urza's Battlethopter for the Skirmish tier. Going to keep it nice and chill. If you want to support my channel, check out my Fiverr. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what commanders you want to see brewed across the power level spectrum. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. Liberator Urza's Battlethopter is a colorless 3-mana legendary Thopter with flash, flying. You may cast colorless spells and artifact spells as though they have flash. Whenever you cast a spell, if the amount of mana spent to cast that spell is greater than Liberator Urza Battlethopter power, put a +1/+1 counter on Liberator. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started with the creatures here. Some pretty straightforward options in terms of beatdown, stuff like Ancient Stone Idol, Artisan of Kozilek. Some really great removal type options like Blade Gryph Prototype, which will allow your opponents to kind of do some politicking where they can destroy each other's stuff. Meteor Golem, Steel Hellkite, again, more stuff for us to remove our opponent's stuff. We don't have a lot of options for removal in these colors, so we're going to go with what we have here, which they're really not that bad of options. Some value type of stuff: Skyscanner, let us draw cards, Pilgrim's Eye, so we can make sure we're hitting our land drops pretty consistently. Steel Overseer is really great for pumping up our team. In addition, we've also got like Chief Foundry, which can give a static buff to all of our stuff. Then we've got a few mana dork stuff like Plague Mirror, which can potentially carry some of the equipment that we have and do like an infect kind of game plan if we really need to. Hedron Crawler, Burnished Heart, more classic ramp type stuff in these colors. Brass Squire is going to be really cool. If we have Brass Squire out and it can tap, we can like do a block, and then in response before blockers we can flash in an equipment and then equip the creature for free with the Brass Squire, so that seems really good. Golem Artisan is another sweet option where we can, if we have extra mana just lying around, we can pump up an artifact creature we control. We can also give an artifact creature flying, trample, or haste until end of turn. So if we're going to be beating people down with Urza and they have some like flying blockers or something like that, a really great option in terms of getting through there. And then we've got some new additions from the Brothers Saga, stuff like Scavenged Brawler. Has Flying, Vigilance, Trample, Lifelink, and then you can exile it from your graveyard to put 4 +1/+1 counters and then Flying, Vigilance, Trample, and Lifelink counters on the creature that you choose. It can be super sweet. Giving Urza already has the flying, but being able to give it Vigilance, Trample, and Lifelink all seem like really great options. Plus, you can just cast this thing for 6 and start beating people down with this 4/4, maybe put some equipment on it or whatever, and then they'll be forced to remove it, and then when they remove it, you just get the extra value out of it. And then we've got the Thrawn Spider, which will give you and an opponent a tapped Power Stone token, but then you can pay 7 and generate a little bit of card advantage by looking at the top 4. You can put an artifact from among them into your hand, so there's some really great options there. Moving on to our sorceries, we've got Gruesome Slaughter, which gives our colorless creatures the ability to deal damage to another creature equal to its power. Can be a really great removal spell, especially if Liberator gets really big. And another really cool thing about Liberator is that you can cast colorless spells and artifact spells as though they had flash, which means that we can cast our colorless sorceries as if they had flash, which is really great. We only have 2 in the deck, but it's still pretty nice. Introduction to Annihilation is another really great option. We can exile a non-land permanent, basically a catch-all type of spell. In our instance, we've got stuff like Scour from Existence, Spatial Contortion, and Warping Whale, all really great options in terms of removal and or being able to counter a sorcery speed or a sorcery spell board wipe. So I like Warping Whale. It's got a lot of really great utility. Moving on to our artifacts, a lot of really great equipment options, stuff like Black Blade Reforged, Bloodforged Battle Axe. Gavel of Righteousness is another really cool option that we get access to. Golem Skin Gauntlets to give our Liberator +1/+0 for each equipment that's attached to it. We can also do that with the Thrawn Power Suit, which essentially gives it +1/+1 for each equipment and aura equipped to the creature. So some really great options here. Ghost Fireblade, another really cool option that only costs 1 mana to equip if it's a colorless creature. And you might be asking me, where are the swords, stuff like Sword of Feast and Famine, Law, or Truth and Justice, that kind of stuff. We're trying to keep the power level on the lower end, in addition to the costs, relatively low. So in order to do that, we've got some equipment with some nice oomph to them, but at the same time, we're not trying to go crazy here. Then we've added a few kind of synergy type stuff. So with the animation module, whenever we get a +1/+1 counter on our Liberator, we can pay 1 and make a colorless servo, which could be fun. And then we can also like proliferate the +1/+1 counters on Liberator and make it a little bit bigger. So in addition to that, we've also got a few kind of ramp type stuff, Overflowing Chalice. We've got the liquid metal torque, so we can turn stuff into artifacts, do a little bit of politicking there if we really need to. Then we've got a few vehicles, stuff like Golden Argosy, really great since when it attacks, you can return the creatures that you crewed with it back to your hand. So we do have a few like ETB type of stuff that we can use, stuff like Pilgrim's Eyes, Sky Scanner, Meteor Golem can all be pretty decent options. Sky Sovereign, another really cool option in terms of removal, being able to deal 3 damage. Weatherlight, the Nautiloid ship, these can give us a little bit more card advantage. One, getting card advantage from our own deck, and then the Nautiloid ship gets things from our opponent's graveyards, potentially. Another really cool option with the Trading Post, since we are pretty artifact heavy, this card can pretty much return most of the cards in our deck back to our hand if we really need to. And then we've got this Luxior Giada's Gift, which gives the creature +1/+1 for each counter on it. And since our Liberator is going to be getting bigger and bigger whenever we cast artifacts that have greater power than it, it's going to be a really sweet option in terms of making our Liberator really, really big. Then we've got a few utility type stuff like Endless Atlas, where we can draw cards, and we do have a good bit of wastes in the deck, so this will probably be able to draw a card most of the time. Mind's Eye, a great way for us to funnel our mana into something if we don't have much else to do. Since we're a colorless deck, card draw is kind of limited, we take what we can get. And a Mirage Mirror is another really great option. Being able to copy anything on the board gives this card a ton of flexibility, and so yeah, we're definitely going to be using it. Moving on to the lands, we've got a little bit of card draw, stuff like Bonder's Enclave, which can draw cards as long as we have a creature with power 4 or greater. War Room is going to be another really cool option, since our commander doesn't really have a color in its color identity. We're not going to have to pay any life in order to draw the cards with it. We can also make Liberator indestructible with Tyrite Sanctum if we put enough mana into it. Some fun stuff like Hall of Taxon, where we can make those Power Stones, Karn's Bastion, so we can proliferate the +1/+1 counters on our Liberator. And then we've also got this Demolition Field that can help us deal with opponents' non-basic lands if we need to. Thanks for checking out this episode of Opal Wave MTG, and until next time.